countries like this, well, Indonesia, which are growing so fast. And finally, the question about education. So, who would like to start? Tan Sri.
I think the question is not what industries we should focus, although it's important. What we need to decide now is what sort of reform we need, the framework. Like, for example, it matters what we do, depending on what we do is imported cheap labor. I think one of our big problems is importing cheap, unskilled labor, which presses down. You have to decide, right? I'm one of those who say, forget it, stop it, give them time to adjust, set up a soft fund to help those people to use robotics, AI, whatever it is. I think we can do it. So that's important. Secondly, exchange rate. We need an exchange rate policy. We can't keep on weakening the ringgit and hope that we will be competitive. In all this, what we always forget is, when we talk about exchange rate, we always talk about exports. As I mentioned just now, it does nothing much to export. What is important is imports. Because everything that you invest in, all the equipment and everything, in fact, everything that you buy every day, 90% of it is imported. So it affects purchasing power. And overall, the overarching objective has to be relooked at. It cannot be increased in income. What's the point of increasing in income if exchange rate depreciates your income? Why do you want to promote inflows of foreign FDIs when the FDIs say, after making money here, whatever I take out is depreciated? So these are very, very important framework policies that must be decided first, and hence reform. There are many other aspects of this education. So I think what we need to do is, to answer the question, where do we go from here is, I think the government needs to spend time looking at reforms of the economy. Without it, you'll be left behind, no question whatsoever. In fact, we are already being left behind. When I joined the bank in 1960, we were ahead of even Korea and Taiwan. Now everybody else is ahead of us. And we will sink further. I call this dying the living death. You know, if you do nothing.
Yeah, that's a ray of sunshine. Are we dying a living death?
I'm a little bit more optimistic. I mean, I think there is. It's hard because there's a lot of issues involved. I think what Tan Sri is saying, the macroeconomic thinking and policy must be in place. Strong, reasonably exchange rate that doesn't depreciate, and some sectoral improvements. But I think that I can perhaps hit a few things. One, I think the foundation is actually education. I think the gentleman who talked about it is that's fundamental, and it's not tertiary. Tertiary, yes, I think, but tertiary is the least of our problems. I think we need to go right to primary school, right away. We have 10,000 schools in Malaysia. I think we've been the victim a little bit of seesawing of policy. I remember there was one time when Tun came in and said, English and math, English for science and math. And sometimes when I looked at that, I in a way agree in principle, but in terms of the how, it was a bit of a disaster, right? Because you're trying to impose a policy across 10,000 schools, you can't. I think we need to be very, very surgical about this, right? For example, going forward, maybe urban schools, schools in this, within 20 kilometers of this university. Yeah, you can even just say, look, here's your, we don't even follow your syllabus. Here's the test, here's the exams that you need to for a standard test. Do what you want, right? I mean, urban schools can do that, right? But I think the focus needs to go on to sort of rural schools. I've been in a program before with Teach for Malaysia. And the demands for that, kids 13 years old, driving to school, going to school in motorbikes, right? So it's a different environment, and they have side jobs and things like that, working, and, helping their parents and so on. So we need differentiated policies. It's all one size fits all does nothing. So I think there needs to be a lot of us in there's a lot of us that is in policy making. We need to split up and split up in terms of like focus on different areas and come up with and actually do the real work. I think education is where I hear the most from the business community at least there's very little the wrong sort of things being discussed in education right now. It's for some reason even as media we're at fault. Mazli does a speech, a whole 2-hour policy speech, and the media focuses on his on his sort of black shoes to white shoes to black shoes, right? That's also media's fault. Media as a whole like the sound bites of those things. It would sound like silly sound bites. But still, I don't feel that we need a change, great change manager within education. I just had a look at an education blueprint yesterday, just talking through my BCG ex-colleagues and so on, and looking at the structure of reporting and people within the education system, within the education ministry. It's crazy. It's nuts. I haven't heard anything that has moved us forward other than this sort of English or non-English. I think we need to be much more into that. I'm also a little bit optimistic on the other things. I think coming from the entrepreneurial sector, I think we have people who have created value across Southeast Asia. Anthony Tan, Grab, is a Malaysian. Yes, he has to go down to Singapore to do that, but guess what? There's a lot of people employed within Grab. Grab is the base here. So you hear a lot of companies young companies within Malaysia coming up. So I'm a little bit optimistic about that. But I think there's some sectors where I think, again, we have to split up and figure out responsibilities. For example, tourism. We have a huge advantage over a lot of other countries in terms of tourism. We have beautiful beaches, we have beautiful forests, and I was in Costa Rica where tourists were spending $50 looking at this, sort of taking a walk through the woods and the trees. I'm like, hey, this is to me like just going to Sunway University, and recently I was at the Mulu Caves and all that, and actually they've done a fantastic job of tourism there, low impact tourism and so on, and the number of people spending a lot of money being there. So I think these forests and this, instead of cutting them down and so on, we actually have an opportunity to become. It's unique. It's a unique strength that we have. So tourism, why not? Other areas like why not make? I'm not sure that Kuantan's an international airport, but Kuantan is 3 hours. People want to get to the beaches. They don't want to go to KLIA and then travel all the way, and then maybe in 5 years' time take a train to Kuantan, right? But they just want to fly to Kuantan straight away to go to Terating and so on. These are the little small things that can be done very, very easily. Upgrading the airport. Penang, upgrading the airports in Penang, which is happening right now. But why are we talking about Kedah? I mean, what's this thing about airports in Kedah and things like that? So it's just sort of this sort of block and tackle policies. Another area, again, we get distracted by the Malaysian, the third national car, etc. A lot of hullabaloo about Malaysian national car. I look at I'll give you an example. My stock portfolio right now, what I'm looking at is I'm not looking at cars, I'm not looking at car companies. I don't know who will win. I didn't buy Tesla, I didn't buy VW, etc. But I'm looking at batteries, right? Who are the guys? This so obvious to me as a businessman that all the car guys are moving to electric vehicles, right? And with electric vehicles, you need batteries, right? So I'm looking at LG Chem, I'm looking at Samsung, I'm looking at CATL in China, and these are the guys that I think will win. Whoever wins the car race, or it will be a continuous race, it'll be a marathon. But at least look at other industries which could be. We have a great start in solar. We have electrical engineers. So and batteries could be a thing. So there might be some specific areas of focus that I think Mitty and your colleagues might look at. Dyson is opening up in Singapore, electric cars in Singapore, so there are specific areas that we can look at, but on the whole, we need the education folks to really sort out education. We need great very solid, stable, certain macroeconomic policies, and then some specific looking into some areas, and I think we'll be okay. I think I think that's the thing. But education, it starts all with education, and not at tertiary level. I think you guys, the private universities and all are all doing their jobs, but definitely at this at the primary level.
Absolutely, primary school, even kindergarten. So students don't start until they turn 7. It's that might be okay, but obviously in the big urban centres, it was interesting you were talking about sort of adopting schools and looking at the way in which urban schools could, but that again goes counter to government policy, which is that schools are there for national integration and cultural values. And frankly, in Malaysian schools, religion, if you're talking about the government schools. This is a major drag on Malaysia, it seems, when you talk about creating young people to fill that kind of void, that industry, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, but we're not producing them in sufficient numbers amongst the Malay community predominantly. I mean, I think this is another area that I think we have to be clear about.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I don't think it's an issue in urban schools. I think there is enough community support and parents and so on. I think the issue is in sort of the sort of rural schools and so on. So I think in that sense there is a race slash when I went to that school in Kedah, it was basically like 95% Malay, right? So you're focusing your resources and effort, the public sector effort towards poor schools, right? Poorer schools, hopefully not race based. And what happens is that you let the ones who can figure it out for themselves, right? So yeah.
It's difficult. I mean, government schools are now more race-based than the private sector. This is the bizarre thing in this country. Primary, the 7,000 plus primary schools have a worse ratio than the international schools do in terms of race. It's like 80-90% Malay. So this is a big issue now, especially.
I mean, look at this room, right? Look at this room. Yeah. Malay is a minority in this room.
Look at the organising committee. 32 of them.
So there's
32 of them. Just take a look at the names on those 32.
So there is currently a segregation that's happening, and I think that worries me. Right? It's a segregation between the private sector universities, and the public sector universities, and it goes down to even like your secondary school, your high schools, your primary schools, etc. So that is now I think it's now being segregated based on economic classes, and sometimes that translates to racial classes. So I think this worries me, and I think to me the reason why this is happening is because our primary sector, our whole our education system from the start is broken. So I think we need to fix that, and let's be very pragmatic about it, right? Let's not have one blanket rule and so on. In companies, what we do is when we have these big projects to undertake, we start with a few wins that we can do. Concentrate on a few schools, whatever it is, and then showcase those schools. Get buy-in from people, get buy-in from teachers from other places, get buy-in from administrators, and then you roll it out. It's a 12-year program, it's a 15-year program. So it's something that I think, sometimes I think, politicians have a little bit like, oh, we do this, everyone will follow. No, it doesn't happen like that. We need to do the pilots and figure it out.
Keming, maybe you could say something about the, you mentioned batteries, you mentioned certain sectors that we're strong in. I mean, photovoltaic is an area for Malaysia, right? We're, I think, a major producer, number 2, isn't it? But these are all they're all part of Trump's tariff regime. I think your ministry is tracking these, is that right?
Yeah, thanks. Maybe I'll respond to some of the issues that were brought up earlier as well. Since Tan Sri Lin talked about the weakening of the ringgit in his first presentation and also just now, I just want to emphasize that as far as I know, there is no official government policy and also no Bank Negara policy of maintaining a weak ringgit in order to help our exports. Let me just clarify that. It is not government policy to maintain ringgit at any particular level.
The problem is there's no policy.
Okay. Tan Sri, I'm sure you've heard of a concept called rational expectations. And the reason why I think many central banks don't do targeting in terms of any exchange rate is that you'll subject yourself to attacks by speculators. So whenever they know that you're going to intervene in order to hold the ringgit up at a certain level, or you want to move the ringgit to a certain level, then somebody talked about financial flows just now. There will be opportunities for arbitrage and also to attack our reserves. So that's my response to that particular topic. In terms of, I just wanted to highlight the issue of city soundbites that Malik talked about. I think this is one area where all of us politicians have to be much more careful of. Of course, today covered by Chatham rules, I don't think any of this is going to appear in the media. But whenever I go for a press conference, especially one I know that will likely feature on one particular topic or two, I have to prepare my talking points so that I can anticipate what the headlines will be before I go there, so that things like black shoes are not covered as part of my discussion. And I think from that perspective, not just the media that needs to be smarter, I think the politicians also needs to be smarter in terms of crafting our messages. Okay, I think the larger question I want to address in regards to sectors that we want to focus on, which is the original question and also some of the follow-up questions as well. To my ministry, there are 5 important sectors in the manufacturing sector which has very important spillover effects from a productivity standpoint, from an investment standpoint, from a human resource development standpoint. And this would be the E&E sector, that I've spoken at length about, machines and equipment, M&E, medical devices, chemicals, which includes petrochemicals, and then also aerospace. These are 5 sectors which have experienced quite healthy growth in Malaysia over the past 10-15 years. They provide good, well-paying jobs, engineering jobs especially, and IT jobs as well. And they are areas where not just foreign FDI has come in a very big way, but also a lot of local players have grown as part of the supply chain. In my job, I've been lucky enough to visit some of the large local companies that have listed as a result of them being part of the global supply chain. And Tan Sri, I would advise you if maybe give a suggestion that you perhaps go and visit some of the E&E factories in Penang. One example is Vitrox. They have a very nice new campus in Batu Kawan, a Malaysian company that is listed itself. And if you look at the whole philosophy behind that company, they are an innovation company producing their own medical imaging devices technology. Another one is called Pentamaster. If you go to their operations and their office in Bayan Lepas in Penang, you will not see a lot of shop floor staff. They have 300 design engineers there, just looking at how to improve their automation processes. There's other than Vitrox, Pentamaster, there's Inari Amaton as well, probably the largest supplier to Broadcom, one of the global players, and they have put a lot of investments into automation and whatnot. So I think that sector is one I'm very excited about, and this would include, for example, possible spillover effects into battery technology. A lot of this started from FDI coming from foreign MNCs. One example that, since we talk about battery technology, there's a Chinese company called Camel Batteries. Most of you would not have heard of it. I don't think you probably would have heard of it. They have just recently started their operations producing normal lead batteries in Kuantan as part of the industrial park that I talked about. But they also bought a minority stake in a company called RIMAC, and it is a Croatian electric vehicle company that also has battery technology. So the reason why I bring it up is because the founder of this particular company, RIMAC, was born in the same town as Nikola Tesla. And this Chinese company bought part of a stake in this electric vehicle company, and we are hoping that they would be able to enhance and increase their battery operations here in Malaysia into higher value added areas and perhaps bring some of the R&D along as well. So that is part and parcel of our larger strategic focus, because when meaty issues are press statement, it's not as sexy as some of the other things that appear in the media, videos and photographs and other statements. So that's why a lot of this policy doesn't really get captured in the larger public. But our engagement with the industry is one that's very regular, and is something that we want to do even more of, so that we can bring back the kind of business confidence that Sri Nazar talked about earlier.
They are fantastic companies in Penang. I visit them, they do work for me, but not enough.
So we want to do more.
Yeah, Spread it out.
Spread it out. Thanks. Would you like to respond to any of those points?
Education, immigration, economic policy, business policy, they are all ultimately part of the system that we have today. And the honest truth, and it's a bit uncomfortable to be speaking in such a big crowd, even though it's the honest truth is I think that if we don't fix the system, we will be the sick man of ASEAN in the next 15 years. That is my prediction.
I agree with 100%.
We end on a note of amity and comity. I remember, you know.
Sorry, Mark. But, you know, I say that with optimism because Malaysia is a country that, you know, has at the right times been able to come with fantastic solutions, right? If you think about what happened in 69, right? 69, don't forget, for all the controversy of the new economic policy from deflection, it worked for the first 20 years, right? It certainly was a solution that countries like Sri Lanka didn't adopt, and they just went from bad to worse. Yeah. Then the Asian financial crisis, we went, you know, we were the pariahs of the world economies, right? We came up with capital controls, etc. And guess what? Today, these policies have become acceptable, right? They were, Malaysia was bold enough to do it. So when I look at the system today, it is by and large the system that was designed in 1970. It was a social engineering experiment for 20 years. It is past its sell-by date. And that system affects everything, including the political system, the electoral system, etc. And some of you will be political scientists, and you know the term they used to describe the Malaysian political system, consociational democracy, right? But the guy who authored consociational democracy, this R.M. Lightheart, actually also went on to say that for multiracial societies, two things. One is that system cannot survive competitive politics, real competitive politics, because in the end of the day, competitive politics in such systems will default to identity politics. He also went on to say that probably the better system for societies like us would be proportional representation and real coalition politics. But that's not the point. I don't have the solutions. What I do know is, having worked in this system for 30 years, this system doesn't work anymore. And we're in real danger of falling behind if we don't fix it. And as Mark knows, and I think he's about to share with you, the last time I was on the Disney show, which was Mark chaired the Oxbridge panel, I argued that what Malaysia needs is to set up a national consultative platform. With all due respect to politicians, they cannot, right? They're not configured this way. They're not configured for transformation. They have their vested interests in their politics, etc. We need the best and brightest of Malaysia to sit down once again to relook at our system and fix it. We need people like Tan Sri Lin Sian and the likes who've thought this, who've seen it all, to really brainstorm and find a system that works for today. Don't forget, the old system was 1970. It was long ago. That was second industrial revolution. We had the third, the fourth is coming, right? And look at the politics that we all laugh about today. You know, I was telling people, my son is doing the most relevant course for Malaysian politics today, medieval history. So, you know, that's my plea for the sake of all of you in the room. This system needs to be fixed. The sooner we fix it, the better. Because I look at your faces today, you know, you're all worried about the future. You want to be successful, but I'm afraid the system will constrain you unless we look at it and we fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. One word.
Those who would want to read what my solution is, read my next column this Saturday or next Saturday.
Thank you very much. Another one last. Okay.
just advice to the suggestion to the organizers as well as all of those here today. I know that in the next panel you have Marina and Farah here, but I will gladly give up my seat here if let's say we could have more gender diversity. That's number one. And then number two, notice that all of the questioners also lack certain gender diversity, and I encourage the females in this audience to also speak up and have your voice heard. Thank you.
Good to have a woke minister, right? Yeah.
That's not the word that's being used by youngsters.
Already woke, I'm out of touch, I don't know, I'm so out of touch. My kids are sort of a little older. I think that brings us to the end. We've run 5 minutes over. I'm sure we could have carried on until 12:15. I'd like to really echo Dr. Srinaz's final points. That really does chime with me. What are we going to do to change the system? No point complaining about the people, the system needs changing. And that perhaps might be part of the topic this afternoon. So please do join us. Thank you to the speakers, thank you to the organisers. Have a nice lunch.
Thank you, panelists, for your valuable insights. That marks the end of the first panel session. A huge thank you to all the speakers on the panel for their contributions and for addressing questions on the floor. I'd like to once again invite Ian on stage to present tokens of appreciation.